In the house, it is Shad White, the state auditor. Good morning, sir.
How you doing, brother? It's good to see you.
I'm doing good. The temperature this afternoon is going to be a nice balmy
1,000 degrees.
97 degrees.
97.
Thank goodness for these trees here. It's
That's right.
Kind of the grove in a way.
Yeah.
But it's. Yeah. How long have you been coming here?
Long time. I started volunteering on political campaigns back when I was a teenager, so I think that was my first time coming through. Yeah. This has got to be one of the hotter ones. So I read this morning that if you've been vaccinated for COVID and you don't have any pre-existing conditions, you're more likely to die of heat stroke. And I was like, well, let's test that theory out. I think I might die of heat stroke today.
Well, I think it's 97 degrees. I'm not sure what the heat indices are. I think yesterday was 115.
Goodness gracious.
115. So
goodness gracious.
It will put a crust on the mud, though.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I got my John Deere boots on, though. I'm ready for mud. That's fine.
You told me something off the air that it wasn't that long ago you could actually rent a chicken here.
You didn't know that?
No.
So they say that you could rent a chicken, mainly for little boys, and then for little girls you could rent a bunny rabbit. And, or vice versa, and you could just pet the bunny rabbit, but the chicken would keep you busy for several hours. And I think that probably stopped at some point, but this is the only place I know of in the world where at one time you could rent a chicken.
What would you do? You had to return it, though.
Well, you got to return the live chicken. That's right.
If it was a full-size chicken?
It's in the contract. I think it was mainly like chicks, like little chicks.
Full size, if it happened that they laid an egg, then you've got some property squabble.
Well, yeah, and you don't want
comes in.
You don't want to mess with a full size rooster if you're a 5-year-old boy.
No, well, if an egg came from a rooster, then we really got some problems. But how's everything going?
Good.
I haven't seen any indictment in the last 24 hours. What are you doing, sleeping?
Well, I know we took a little break. Yeah, we did have a sentencing last week. You may have seen that. So we had sentencing down on the coast. Mayor Mario King of Moss Point. We had investigated him alongside the FBI. A tip came to me, I guess it was about a year ago, and a tip came to me when I was actually speaking down on the coast. And so we took the tip, and then I gave it to my team, and we started working with the FBI really closely. As it turns out, Mayor King had set up this gala where he was raising money allegedly for mental health. Unfortunately, he and his wife spent the money that they raised on a dog and on a car payment and all kinds of other stuff for their own personal benefit. So he and his wife pled guilty, and last week we had a sentencing where Mayor King was sentenced to 30 months in prison, and both he's now a felon, so he's not allowed to hold office anymore. So that's, I think, a successful end to that case, and it's one of those where you look back and you hope that it sends a signal to other politicians and elected officials around the state. These offices do not exist for your personal benefit. They exist for the public, and you can't lie to get money, and you can't use that money for your own personal benefit. So I hope that this serves as a deterrent in the future, too.
It seems like always that's the situation when somebody's been in there for a long time. They think they have ownership, and the rules and regulations change with their seniority. Yep. And that's when they get in trouble.
Yep.
But, I mean, the amount of what he did was not inconsequential. I mean, he took a heck of a lot of money out of there. And to be honest with you, it's the first time I think the word designer dog's been in the news at that level.
It was a new concept to me, certainly. Yeah. But I think what you said is right. There are some folks out there who get into a position of influence or power, and they think the rules change for them. And I have to tell people that these jobs, if you're an elected official, these jobs are not for your personal gratification. They're not for you to live a little bit of an extra good life compared to other folks. I try to anchor myself in the habits that my dad and my grandfather had. They're both oil field pumpers. I pack my lunch every day. I go to work. I eat at my desk and read through lunch and read emails and documents that we have. Drive myself. And if you treat yourself like other folks that you know of who stayed humble and lived the right way, then you're going to be okay. But if you start to think of yourself as special, then it's a problem.
Get a little aggravated at people who are some of the sages of the political party or politicians who come to you and say, man, I don't know, you need to ease up a little bit.
Yeah,
it happens. It happens. Every auditor's got to get.
Well, I'll tell you how it plays out. People will come to me and they'll say things like, if you would just not make anybody mad during your time as state auditor, you could run for whatever you wanted to after this. And I tell them, if I didn't make anybody angry, if I did no audits, if I did no investigations, if I did nothing as state auditor, I couldn't live with myself for the rest of my life.
I agree. And I got to tell you, 90% of the people who would come in there would not do that. They would acquiesce to it and say, I understand, and I want to take that next level. Thank God we have people who don't do that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and, when we do audits and investigations, 90% of them turn out to show that nothing serious is going wrong. But when you get that 10 or 5% of people who are knowingly taking advantage of the system and stealing money, you have to hold them accountable. And yeah, that's going to make some folks mad. But to me, there's an easy way to do this job where you don't make anybody mad, and then there's the right way to do this job. And I want to look my daughters in the eye one day and say, I did this job for a brief period, and I did it the right way, regardless of the political consequences.
Any follow-up or update as far as one of the biggest ever, the Department of Human Services?
So, trials are scheduled at this point. John Davis's trial is scheduled for September in state court. Nancy and Zach.
When does that coming up in September?
I believe it's the first half of September.
So
it's sometime in the month of September, and then the back half of September, Nancy and Zach New are scheduled for trial in federal court. We have been participating in an investigation with federal authorities, and they've been indicted on federal charges. So that'll happen in the back half of September, and then the other remaining state court cases are scheduled for later in the fall, October. So it's coming up soon.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit on Mario King, the former mayor. That kind of was a short circuit. He pled guilty, didn't he?
He did, correct.
So
that's right.
that kind of put a rest to that.
That's exactly right. And we've seen situations that's been interesting, not in the Mario King case, but one case that comes to mind in North Mississippi. Mm-hmm. We investigated, found a mayor had embezzled money from his town, arrested the individual through a grand jury indictment, and we had a bit of time between then and the actual trial. And, people went around and said, oh, the auditor's office is wrong, and they're just picking on this poor guy. And, as soon as the trial date comes up, the guy went in and pled guilty. First day. So you have to be willing to tolerate a little bit of public criticism sometimes to do this job the right way. Sometimes that means telling people, I know you think Bubba did something wrong, but he did not. We've investigated it, and we don't see anything there. And then sometimes you say, I know you think Bubba did something wrong, and he may be politically connected, but he did do something wrong, and we're going to hold him accountable.
You get that every day.
Every day.
You can't make people. You make a man on both sides.
Yeah, and to me, it doesn't matter. I grew up believing and being taught that the truth is the truth. You do what you know is right. You follow the law, and that's all you can do.
And when we talk about victims' restitutions, and we were talking about that with Tony Smith,
sure.
As far as on the parole board, then this is basically the same thing. As far as the victims out there, they need to know that this man or woman receives some justice on their part as far as the victims are concerned.
Well, and and the victims in most of our cases are the taxpayers.
Yeah.
At large, the taxpayers at large. And so there's a big dispersed group of people, the taxpayers, who put money into government, and they want us to do the right thing, and they want somebody holding folks accountable if they don't do the right thing. And those folks, understandably are living their daily lives. They're going to work. They're raising their kids. But and the folks who get mad are the most vocal typically. But you have to know, if you're state auditor, that there are a lot of people out there who want you to do the right thing, who want you to safeguard taxpayers.
Shad White, state auditor. The length of the investigations are as individual as the cases.
Absolutely.
But, have you tried to find a way to speed those up a little bit, or is it just takes time?
It takes time, and I'll tell you this. When I first came into office, we had about 100 active cases, and I told my team, look, let's try to get that number down. Let's try to get it to something more manageable, get some of the older cases off the books, and we've totally been unable to do that, because every time that we have a new case that results in an arrest, we get about 20, 30 new tips from that area. So every time we whittle it down a little bit, we get new cases in. But the good thing about that is, Paul, people are feeling comfortable going to the state auditor's office reporting fraud, and they know where to turn now. They know that there's some place that they can go with this information.
There's an ungodly amount of money coming in from the feds.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling, whether it's Department of Education, whether it's and it's only the beginning, because if they can ever make a decision on the infrastructure, we'll have more coming in there.
Yep.
That's a two-edged sword.
It is. So that money can do a lot of good, obviously. It can create some problems from a policy perspective, namely inflation. Mm-hmm. But also, from my office's perspective, the biggest problem that it creates is the potential for fraud and the potential for misspending. So we always have to tell them, follow the laws, follow the rules. We'll help you understand them. But if you don't do that,